I think we've hit 6:30, so we will rise for the flag salute. Mr. Davis, would you please lead us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mayor had another commitment for a little bit. He'll be joining us in just a few minutes, and he will take over at that point. So Julie, will you please take the roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Favela. Here. Councilmember Wells. Here. Councilmember Burkle. Councilmember Hamilton. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Chipman.
Here.
And Mayor Cole will be joining us shortly.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we excuse Councilman Burkle from the meeting this evening.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, measure passes. Thank you. Mr. Stewart, are there any late changes to the agenda?
No late changes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. At this time, there will be public comment. Anyone requesting to speak to the council regarding all items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time. Please state your name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Written comments may be submitted to the clerk prior to the meeting. Is there anyone wanting to make public comment?
Hi, my name's Lauren Langston. I've lived here for 2 years now. I went to school in Battleground. My address is 321 North 33rd Court. I've had numerous calls to the police on 311 about speeding. I'd like to get it changed to 10 miles an hour. My kids, a bunch of other people's kids, play in that street and they rush around them like they aren't even there. I would like to also see speed bumps put in if possible. I know it costs a lot, but looking out for the safety of kids. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. I've emailed the city. I've done everything possibly I can before somebody gets hurt. This is a serious matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Public comment tonight? If not, we'll close public comment at this time.
Anybody online? Anybody online?
Oh, I'm sorry. Was there anyone online?
Not seeing anyone online.
Okay, thank you. The consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Oops.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion passes. First tonight, we have a presentation of the discussion of engineering standards. Mr. Crownhart, our Parks Director.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. It is a joy to be back here to talk about parks. With that, let's go on to our first slide. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Park and Trail Engineering Standards, which will be Volume 3 of the city's engineering standards. The purpose of this was to develop a comprehensive and enforceable standard that we could apply to our facilities as well as those facilities that are publicly available but developed by private developers. Just a note here, last year you did update the first and second volume of the engineering standards, and we said that we were coming back with a third volume. This is that third volume. Our objective tonight is to receive some feedback from council in regards to the standards and the principles behind those standards. So why create parks and trail standards? Well, 5 years ago, there was a worldwide pandemic. And all across the parks and recreation industry, we saw usage increase dramatically. Also, within the last 5 years, we've seen accessibility and inclusion be pressed as an important value that needs to be reflected within parks and recreation. So the standards coming for you today reflect those realities of increased usage, more inclusion, and greater accessibility for users. Key points for our standards tonight is that the objective of these standards that are put before you is that they are in alignment with industry trends within parks and recreation, and that the objective here is to create resilient and assets that will last a long time. We want to help drive down the overall maintenance and operation costs of parks so that as we have them, it doesn't cost us as much to take care of them. Slide. So let's take a look at some of the assets that we currently have within the city. You've probably enjoyed many of our trails and parks. Some of them are owned by us. Some of them are managed by HOAs or private developers. Currently, there are a number of trails that were not installed with proper vegetation barriers or have poor water drainage and very steep grades. Some of them greater than, some of them about 15% grade. As an example, the trail at Beacon Rock is about 15% grade and may not necessarily be considered ADA accessible. You'll also notice that there's some inconsistencies within our parks in terms of signage and recognition. Some of our trash cans do not have covers or lids, and it does rain 6 months out of the year. And many of our assets are not necessarily weather resistant. What this leads to is a system that requires high operation and maintenance costs, not only for the city, but also for HOAs that are managing these spaces. And some of these assets do deteriorate rapidly. Finally, each of the assets that you see up here on the screen, including the park bench up in the upper right corner, that park bench is actually on a trail that has deteriorated over the course of 3 years because it was placed with insufficient vegetation barrier. That all to say, all of these assets were built according to our current standard. Next slide. So how do we compare to our neighbors and our peers? Many other jurisdictions place their standards within different components within the city. Some of them are in the engineering standards, some of them are in the development code, and some jurisdictions have them in their park, recreation, and open spaces planned. On the high end, you have jurisdictions like Bellingham and Bend that have more than 100 pages of standards, which standardizes park benches, signs, width of trails, everything like that. And then some of our nearby neighbors have smaller standards. Camas has about 8 pages that are attached to their pros plan that they created 4 years ago, while Clark County and Vancouver do not have specific parks and recreation standards. So why don't they have standards, and why might we want to have some of those? Many of the assets that are built within the city are actually built not just by the city, but also by developers, because we do issue park impact fee credits. Something to consider. Slide. Before we dig into the standards, it's important to have a conversation about the difference between outdoor access and accessibility. The reality is that our objective as a city for Parks and Recreation is to how do we ensure access to the wilderness without losing the very wildness that people came to find. That's our objective and challenge. It's a paradoxical challenge that every Parks and Recreation agency has to address, and we are no different, and that we'll have to address how we approach it. Luckily, others have tackled this already. The Forest Service has already looked at how they can create means of creating accessibility guidelines for all of their trails. That very trail that I mentioned before at Beacon Rock with a 15% grade does fall within the Forest Service Trail Accessibility Guidelines, or FSTAG. So technically speaking, that trail is falling within accessible guidelines. If you were to make that trail ADA accessible, you would destroy the very nature that people were trying to get to. So the objective for outdoor accessibility is to ensure access while preserving the outdoor spaces that we're going to. So for that, within these standards, you'll notice that there are opportunities for us to have more clear ADA accessibility and exceptions where there may be points for us to deviate so that we can ensure that the natural places in our community can still be accessed, but we can make sure that it's as accessible as reasonable for the outdoor space that they're stepping into. The quote from the FSTAG guidelines are, to maximize accessibility while protecting the unique characteristics of their natural setting. For this reason, you will not hear me use a phrase like accessible trail. The reality is we're looking for trails that comply with trail accessibility guidelines to make sure that we can have trails as accessible as possible without losing that natural space. Any questions on that? Perfect. Next slide. All right. Chapter 1 of the engineering standards focuses in on the submittal requirements. The principle behind this is to minimize the standards, to minimize the submittal requirements that developers have to provide to the city to ensure compliance. So we would be asking developers to provide everything from the locations and to identify their trails, to talk about what's their width, their depth, their base, their cross slope. All these characteristics help us understand if they are weather resistant, if they are accessible, and if they will be resilient long-term for our city. The same thing applies for play structures as well as signage and emergency access for all of these submittals. Slide. So the Ridgefield Trail System. What we're putting before you today is an opportunity to update the standards to ensure accessibility, but provide a wide breadth of recreational facilities throughout the city. Right now, we currently have a Type 1, Type 2, and a Type 3 trail for the city, where Type 1 is a 10 to 12 foot wide, Type 2 is 8 to 10 feet wide, and a Type 3 is 6 to 8 feet wide, with a maximum grade of a 15% grade. It does not provide exceptions for what that may look like. What we've put before you today is an opportunity to discuss multimodal trails and recreational trails, to focus in on what are the objectives of these two categories of trails. A multimodal trail is part of our transportation network, and therefore is developed to help move people around the city in multimodal ways, whether that be bicycles, walking, running, and the like. With that, those standards reference the Washington Department of Transportation Shared Youth Path Standards. This requires things such as a 10 to 12 foot wide asphalt or concrete surface, a maximum of 5% grade unless it is along a roadway, and that it is required to be ADA accessible. We've divided this up into two types of trails, arterial and collector, where arterials are the main thoroughfares through the city, and a collector helps connect those arterial trails to primary sites throughout the city. Say there's a school nearby, a collector trail will help connect that arterial trail to that space. On the other side of the coin are recreational trails. Recreational trails are recreational in nature, and we've specified two classifications. The first is the traditional hiking trail. This hiking trail, according to the U.S. Forest Service standards, has two particular characteristics. One, it has a designed use. Every trail within the Forest Service system has a specified design use, who it's built for. Is it built for equestrian? Is it built for mountain bikes? Is it built for hikers? And there are particular standards to ensure that each user group can use that particular designed class. So our hiking trail would fall within a hiker trail that is at least 6 feet wide and is a paved surface. This is similar to the access trails that you may see up at Ape Caves that takes you from the visitor center to the cave itself, if many of you have been out there. That is an asphalt route that gets you to that space. We also have provided an opportunity for what we're calling a semi-primitive trail. A semi-primitive trail would allow developers and landscape architects to put forward a wide array of other designed use trails. If a developer or even the city wanted to put in a mountain biking path, we don't necessarily have our own engineering standards for what that mountain biking path would look like, but the Forest Service does. So they could come to us and say, we want to put in a mountain biking path as our designed use. We want it to be a class 3 or a medium developed trail. And there are engineering standards that are already referenced in the U.S. Forest Service that will help allow that to be built. The caveat is that for semi-primitive trails, they do have to ask the city and get permission in order to put that on their plans. Questions on trails?
Council, any questions on the trails portion? You can continue.
Moving on to playground safety. All right. According to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, there are over 200,000 injuries of children every year on playgrounds and about 15 deaths. Because of the national importance of making sure that children are safe, the National Recreation and Parks Association has what is called a Certified Playground Safety Inspector Program. They train individuals on how to properly inspect all these play structures across the country. And the City of Ridgefield has 4 staff members that are certified in this training, including myself. The standards put for you today have a principle of having child safety be paramount. Therefore, it would require that every play structure that is built within the city that is publicly available has to pass a certified playground safety inspection at their construction. All of the maintenance after that is the responsibility of the owner and user, but in order for them to open, they would have to have that certified inspection beforehand. We also have within the playground safety standards an opportunity for us to promote accessibility and inclusive design within our play structures. While all of our playgrounds are ADA compliant, there is a higher opportunity for us to have inclusive design play structures that allow every youth to engage with every asset within that park. An example of an inclusive design playground would be Marshall Park within Vancouver, or the play structure at Esther Short Park in Vancouver. Next slide. Let's talk about fixtures and amenities. We need trash cans and recycling cans and picnic benches and picnic tables and benches throughout our community. We want to make sure that these assets are weather resistant, because it does rain 6 months out of the year. We have some trash cans that were built within our parks that do not have covers on them. Therefore, they do fill with water, which creates a lot of work for our crew. We also want to make sure that all of the picnic tables and benches are actually ADA accessible by the users in the community. With that, we also would like to have the routes within a park be ADA accessible. We may have a park bench that is ADA accessible, but there is not an accessible way to get to it. So these standards reference the Forest Service Outdoor Recreation Accessibility Guidelines, which requires that all of these assets would have access to them for any user to be able to interact with them. Next slide. Signage and surface markings. The principles here are to ensure clarity for our users and safety for our users. Many of our trails are actually in more remote places and harder to find within our community. So by having signage, we can ensure that if there are incidents, users are able to notify emergency response right away so they can get in to help someone who may be in an emergency. Additionally, this helps cover city liability by articulating our rules and our code to our users to ensure that it is a safe recreational experience for all users. Finally, our signs and surface markings allow us to create an inclusive and multilingual messaging for all of our users in the community. Let's talk about landscaping. At Greeley Park, we have 18 different zones for our landscaping, similar to what you may have in your home. Each of those zones is managed by what is called a node, or a battery-operated system that is a timer that will allow that sprinkler to turn on. And because it's battery-operated, if one of those batteries dies, we do not know that there is a problem until the grass turns brown. Conversely, if the time is off on 2 different of the nodes, they may go off at the same time, which does not allow enough water pressure, therefore neither of them get watered. Most irrigation systems are set up on alternating current, or they're connected to the power grid, meaning that they're not battery operated. By having a requirement that all of the sprinkler systems within parks are connected to that power grid, it allows our team to be more water conscious, more water sustainable, and helps drive down our overall maintenance and operations costs for those parks. Our the landscaping standards also reference the landscaping plan, the native plant list, as well as the tree plan in our development code. Chapter 7 is about maintenance and safety. We have a spectacular team of operations and maintenance workers who take care of our parks day in and day out. These standards would ensure that there is proper space for them to pull their vehicles over outside of the lane of traffic to ensure that they can access all of the parks. Would also require that our parks have spaces for our maintenance vehicles and mowers to actually get onto them as opposed to going over curbs. Finally, we have consulted with the fire department to ensure that there is proper access for emergency vehicles or emergency tools for outdoor incidents that may happen on our trails. So if somebody were to have a mountain biking accident, we want to make sure that the crew can actually get in there to support the injured. So our principle here is to ensure access and to ensure safety for all of our staff. So with that, council, my question for you tonight is to do a temperature check, get your feedback on the standards that have been put forward, as well as the principles that stand behind them.
Great, thank you, Mr. Cronhart. Council staff is looking for feedback on these standards and presented tonight, and if we're feeling like they're tracking. Anybody have any comments or questions at this point? Yeah, we'll go with Councilor Favela.
Awesome, thank you. Can we go to chapter 5, the signage, please? Mr. Cronhart, I'm wondering specifically about the language. It mentions multilingual messaging. How are we going to do that on one sign? Because I kind of had an idea that has been floating around in my head.
Oh, one, of course, we want to hear your idea.
Okay.
But two, we were going to include QR codes. Now, with this, we do plan on coming back to you for specific, to approve signage guidelines for parks and trails, so that you would be able to have a final say of what these may look like. This is a graphical representation and may not necessarily be the exact standards that come back to you.
I just wanted to make sure we have Braille included in some way, at least like for a park name. It doesn't, not as much information as we can fit on the sign for Braille, and then the QR code. I'm thinking of my Japanese exchange student that was here, and that would have been so nice to have when we were going and reading all the interpretive signs around town, that I could scan a QR code instead of trying to Google Translate everything for her.
Absolutely, we've noted it.
Thank you.
Great, okay, thank you, Councilor. Councilor Wells.
Yes, I got two comments. First comment, really a good presentation.
Yes.
I really liked it. The other question I have, you said certified inspection. The certification, does that come with, and I don't know what it called, like an underwriter's certification on the piece of equipment, or do we certify it in-house?
We certify through the National Recreation and Parks Association. Now, the individual assets that we do certify, we certify our playgrounds once a year. So our inspectors will go out and ensure that they can properly pass that test. This includes a typical playground inspection may take about 4 hours. We have a full kit with different measuring tools to ensure that there is nothing that can have an entrapment for a child or an impalement for a child, or that they can get caught on a slide. All of those different pieces are in it. The certification training that the staff go through is a 3-day intensive training with a very intensive test at the end. I can attest to that, as I took it last year. And so we have 4 staff with the city that are certified. Now, we wouldn't be asking the developers to go through the city for those certifications. There is a national registry that they can go and access someone else who can come in and do that certification and provide the documentation that that certification has taken place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Great. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cronhart, exceptional job. Having been on Parks Board prior and being a part of many conversations that led up to this, I definitely think this is both comprehensive in terms of capturing a lot of those conversations we had, as well as really hits the mark on, I think, what's realistic and aligns with our values. So I really appreciate it, especially the safety piece. The one piece of insight that I'm fine putting out there is when it comes to the accessibility piece and the inclusivity. I see us positioned as being able to be a leader in that space in terms of the requirements that we have, not just of city-owned assets or city-installed assets, but also what we require of developers. And is that to say that every park that's installed is going to be a multi-million-dollar park that you see down at Marshall Park or at Esther Short? No, it's not. But I would like to see us establish some standards that make it so that Ridgefield is the leader. Ridgefield's the regional leader of saying, you know what, our parks are designed to be accessible for everybody, and whether that's the surface or whether that's the pitch, or just what percentage of the elements can be accessed by people with different mobility issues or whatever. I would like to see us fine-tune those standards and really make it so that, you know, the stuff going forward is going to be accessible, whether somebody's in a wheelchair or using a walker, or, you know, it's a parent pushing a stroller and they can interact with their child in more ways on that playground. So
Yeah.
I am fine when we talk about accessibility and inclusivity, saying I would like to be at the forefront of you know, having those as our standard.
Absolutely, yeah. I would share that sentiment, and I know that there is a cost component to that. I also think that it's worth it to some degree, you know, like within
Yeah.
reason, trying to find the balance there. Just case in point, last night, I was at Abrams Park for a Little League baseball game, and I'm there, and my niece is there, and she's begging me the whole time to go take her to the playground, which is a pretty cool play structure behind it. My parents have also adopted a boy who's very highly special needs, and so she was begging for us to go play on the playground, and of course he can't go. Now I know that we are making some great strides here, but that's one of those, that was a case in point to say, not that our current systems have failed us, but just that, you know, as an illustrator, like I want our play structures to be accessible to everyone of any ability, and I know that there are a whole bunch of factors that go into that, certification being one, but the ambition there, I share that with you, Counselor, is to move towards that, where we can have every, you know, as accessible as possible in our new play structures. So, other questions or comments? Counselor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine is a comment. I just wanted to say that was a wonderful, very thoughtful presentation. Just to highlight everything everybody just said, I know you put a lot of time and energy into that, so I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you for your thoughtfulness on accessibility, inclusivity, and safety. The safety thing hit really hard. I thought the power grid situation with a battery versus being on the power grid, I mean, all these things are incredibly impressive, and I thank you for everything that you're doing for our city.
Thank you, Counselor. You know, I could talk about parks all day.
And we appreciate that about you. Yeah. Any other comments? I have a couple of questions just to follow on, but unless there's other comments first. No? Okay. Going back to what you were talking about, certification standards, you know, anytime we look at that, I like that, and that's a component to this that I think is necessary. I also kind of wonder, like, do adding these layers of standards or certifications or inspections on an ongoing basis, what does that do to drive up cost of new parks construction? As we're finding out, our new parks, every new park costs more and more because costs keep rising. And, you know, like, and as we just said, like, it's great to have all of these features and things built into it. But does that impact, I'm assuming it does, but does that have an impact on cost? And do you know to what impact? Like, what does that, is it like 10%, 30%? What are we looking at as far as like these layers of certifications and inspections?
Well, there's a lot of nuance to that answer, Mayor.
Yeah.
Especially as you look at, there are the initial capital costs for building a play structure or building a park or building a trail. And then there is the maintenance and operation costs, and eventually the replacement costs over time. So to say, is it less expensive or more expensive? It may end up being more expensive in the front end, but less expensive in the long end to ensure that we have an asset that does last for, you know, years for our community. For example, those assets that you saw at the beginning of this presentation, all of those have been built within the last 5 years. And they're already in disrepair and are in need of some significant maintenance to maintain accessibility and just standard use within our community. So it's a complicated answer, and it's a balance that as policymakers you'll have to consider. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, I kind of figured it would be something along those lines there. So I guess along that line too, as we look at these standards, like, you know, and again, and you and I were talking this morning about this too, and I do greatly appreciate all the work that you and the staff has put into this, as well as the Parks Board. You guys have done amazing work here. This is a beast of a book, so it's great. And I apologize if you addressed this early on, but is the plan to bring all of our current parks into this level of into these standards, or is it going to be like a go forward thing? You know, like a new parks, well, these will apply, and then we look back and we'll do what we can. But what is our approach to like existing parks versus future parks?
Similar to the engineering standards you passed last year, those previous assets would be grandfathered in. If there were to be major improvements to those, then they would have to be within those new standards.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Great. Any other questions? Thank you again so much. This is really well done. It's good to see a good work product like this that we get to take action on in May, it sounds like.
Thank you, Mayor and Councilor.
Okay, great. Moving on in our agenda, speaking of parks, this is an exciting time. This is actually a historic moment for us tonight. So we have an appointment to our Parks Board, but not just any appointment. This is our first ever youth appointment to our Parks Board. Now, for those who may not know the history here, so for all of our boards and commissions in the city, we have requirements for those, and most often the requirement is that you are a resident of, you live within the city limits, that you are a registered voter. And to be a registered voter in the state of Washington, you have to be 18, which means that you have to be an adult. However, last year, through Councilor Davis's work, through some discussions on council, we went through the process and said, you know what, we build parks. We're building a lot of parks. We have a 25% green space requirement in all of our new developments, and a lot of that goes to parks, and that's really important to us. But what's also important is to making sure that we're getting the right voices represented on our Parks Board. And so we took the measures to change code this last winter, and we updated it to allow for a youth member to join the Parks Board. So tonight, we finally get to appoint our first ever youth member to the Parks Board, and it's my pleasure to nominate Ellie Galvin to the Parks Board. Now, Ellie comes to us from Ridgefield High School. She is currently a junior. She's attending, she attends in the morning. And then goes around and starts in the afternoon. She is a member of 7 different clubs. I think you chair several of those, including Unite Ridgefield, which are doing great work there. Very ambitious. She has her sights set on Ivy League schools after high school, so she's going places and wants to study possibly international relations or politics. We're very proud of her. The candidate pool was also very impressive. The council reviewed all of our applications, and then I interviewed each one of our candidates. And I initially thought, well, this would be easy. There'll probably be 1 or 2 standouts based on this, and we'll appoint one. It'll be easy. It was a really tough choice. We have some the future's bright here in Ridgefield, guys. That's what I'll say. We had some very, very unique, talented people who were very well spoken, who actually had ideas for our parks. So Ellie was chief among them, and it's my pleasure to council nominate Ellie Galvin. So at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to nominate Ellie Galvin to the Parks Board.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appoint Ellie Galvin to the first youth member of our Parks Board. Is there any discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, there's being none, motion passes, and we have our first ever youth Parks Board. Ellie, I'm going to invite you to come up. We'll give you a chance to say a few words if you'd like, but I'd like to first come up and we're going to take a picture because this is something we want to commemorate. So, yeah, I'll come down there too.
We should stand up. Oh, you want us to all come down? Okay.
Come on in and we'll. I think they're all going to come down. Oh, there. Okay. Come on down.
Okay.
Oh, we're all coming.
Thank you, guys. I'm very proud of you.
Taking a few, so hold your smiles. Make sure nobody blinks. Wonderful.
Thank you again. Both of you over here.
I'm Ellie. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm really, really thankful for this opportunity. I've been looking for more ways to get involved with Ridgefield outside than just getting involved in my high school. I really want to try to make an impact and get my name out there, especially for the career I want to go in. So I really appreciate this. Thank you for appointing me. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ellie. Looking forward to what you will do and what you'll contribute to the Parks Board, so thank you again. Okay. Moving on, our first order of business tonight is resolution number 663, declaring certain property as surplus and authorizing its disposition. Mr. Johnson, we'll go over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. So what we've got before you tonight is we've got some property, and we got it up there on the screen there, but I'll kind of, we do have this big project going on Pioneer, if anyone's been aware, where Discovery Drive, the new road, kind of curves around to Pioneer Canyon and heads over to Costco. We do have a property owner there that approached us and was looking to potentially buy some of the property we have for one of the parcels that we're building the road on to get some additional buffer for their home. So if you look at the kind of pinkish red, blue, and then the yellow there, we're looking to ask council to surplus that property. It's roughly 21,000 square feet, a little bit over that. What the property owner has asked about is around 13,000. We're still trying to figure out what is the proper area that we would do out of that 21,000 square feet to go ahead and give a proper buffer for them. The property there is not needed for the road. We still will have the full right-of-way. That would just be additional either right-of-way or open space. So we have entertained that offer and are coming to council with the first step, which would be surplusing the property. And then we would come back at a later date with the purchase and sale agreement if we come to an agreement with the property owner. So like I said, those three colored areas are about 21,000 square feet. 13,000 is what he's asking for. It could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. We don't know if that full amount would ever be sold, but we're just trying to give our staff the ability to work with them to get something that works without having to come back for additional surplus. The price that we've talked about is $5 per square foot. How we come about that pricing is we purchase some property from an adjacent property owner to get right-of-way to build that road, and we paid $5 per square foot. So it's right next to that. So because we did an appraisal for that and came up with that price, that would be a fair price to charge. Now, to surplus this property, public hearing is not required. Public hearings are required if it's over $50,000 and we're doing an intergovernmental transfer, which this is not, or we're selling property that was originally purchased for a utility, which it was not. Per financial policy number 16, which is for surplus property, council would have to approve the surplus and disposition of any real property over $5,000. So again, the reason we're coming to council tonight. So the total cost would be estimated around $65,000 minus any closing costs that the city would have to pay. A boundary line adjustment would be needed, and again, we'll come back with a purchase and sale agreement at a later date. We have talked about sharing that cost with the property owner if this does go through. So you're looking at roughly, somewhere in that 60, maybe slightly lower price after the purchase or the closing cost, the boundary line adjustment, and all of that is done. So really what we're asking for is for council, if they choose to adopt the resolution, is just adopt it as presented. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Council, any questions on this item of business this evening? Seems pretty straightforward, right?
I just got
Okay, Mr. Wells.
I don't have a question, it's just a comment. With putting that road through, you've infringed on their buffer, if you want to say that. They had a wooded buffer, now they got a road alongside of them. And it only makes sense, because we don't have a use for it, to turn around and purchase it from them and give that buffer back. so because you can see their houses as you're on Pioneer Canyon Drive there, so they could turn around and landscape it the way they want to get their buffer back. So not everybody can look in their yard. That's one comment I have.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 663 as presented.
Second.
Second has been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 663 as presented. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Council, the motion carries. Okay. Our next item of business tonight is the second reading of ordinance number 1443. This is a Royal Ridge RMUO expansion. Ms. Les, we'll go over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council and members of the public. This is a project that council first saw back in January and is now coming back to you with some modifications, and then we will be asking that council take action this evening. So the request here is for an expansion of the Ridgefield Mixed Use Overlay, or RMUO, over a property that's on the northeast corner of Pioneer and Royal, known as Royal Ridge. A zoning overlay expansion is a zone change, and therefore procedurally it is something that goes through Planning Commission for recommendation and public hearing, and then to you, council, for a public hearing, and ultimately the decision is council's on this. So moving along to the next slide, please. This diagram shows what the proposed zone change is. So the property is currently mostly just a commercial community business base zone. The far northeast corner of the property has a bit of the mixed use overlay on it, and the proposal is to pull that overlay over the rest of the property. So the portion outlined in black on the right side is where that mixed use overlay would be added. The effect of this action would be that whereas a plain commercial community business base zone, the development would be allowed to only have commercial uses. With the addition of the mixed use overlay, it would be required to have a roughly 50-50 mix of commercial and residential uses. So, and the total area of the overlay would be around 8 acres. So council reviewed this proposal and held a public hearing on January 23rd, including a look at the applicant's concept plan for the area, which is shown on the next slide. And just to note, the concept plan here is a key part of this application process and review, but any action taken tonight will affect the zoning only. The actual development of the property is required to go through a subsequent land use approval process, including a master plan that goes before the hearing examiner. So on January 23rd, following the public hearing, council had a pretty robust discussion on the proposal and ultimately directed staff to work with the applicant on a concomitant rezone agreement before bringing this back to you for action. The concomitant rezone agreement is something that is permitted as a component of a zone change process. Essentially, it is a development agreement that is folded into the action of the zone change. So the topics that council requested staff and the applicant explore to include in this agreement, in addition to adding the mixed use overlay to the property, were tree retention, security between commercial and residential uses, salvage of materials from the existing farm silo on the site, affordable housing as a component of the residential portion of the development, trails, including a pedestrian crossing over the on-site portion of Allen Canyon Creek, which runs through the northeast quadrant-ish of the site. So those are, in summary, the terms of the concomitant rezone that is before you concurrently with the zoning overlay expansion this evening. And I don't know, Mr. Stewart, do you want to expand on any of those terms now, or wait for questions? Okay. With that, Mayor, I will hand it back to you for any questions and discussion. Thank you.
Ms. Lust. Okay, so on this one, council, I will open it up to questions. And we're going to look to my left first and see if there's any questions to my left.
I got a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. I can see the yellow dotted line on the map. And I guess this is an oddball question. The parcel to the north of that, is that part of the big green area also? The Riston, I'm just asking.
Counselor, is that the map that you're looking at, the one that's
Yeah.
on your screen before you right now?
No, it's not this one. It's the one that's like the satellite image. I think it's
Yeah.
part of the
That one right there?
trip generation analysis.
Correct.
Is what yep.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just north of the red, there along Royal Road. Is that part of the parcel adjacent to it across the creek?
That parcel, the triangular parcel just to the north of the one that we're
Yeah.
looking at, that one is actually owned by the same LLC that owns the larger parcel to the northeast of it.
Okay.
So that entire hillside and that little triangular piece are all owned by the same limited liability corporation.
The only comment I had is I was looking at that parcel, and it would really be nice if we could talk them into doing it together. I'm just speaking off the cuff, because then we'd have a connection between Pioneer Canyon Drive and that two driveways could be across from each other. And that little triangle isn't much of a triangle. But that's just an own personal perspective.
And Counselor, this is something, if I may, this is something that you've raised, and it is a great point, and it's one that we've had preliminary conversations with that larger property owner, who very well may want to come in for a similar overlay to be able to apply to that property, to be able to have a mix of uses that fits within that area as well. But they're simply not ready to make a determination, and weren't willing, at least the last time we spoke with them, to kind of lock in on what that overlay would look like and where it would apply, because if you apply it just to that triangular area right now, it may limit future options for them. So they were hoping not to get included in this, but again, this is a legislative action on your part, and is certainly within the realm of possible for council if you so choose.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Great, thank you, Councilor Wells. Okay, I'm going to go to my right here. Is there any questions or comments? Councilors? No? Okay. I have a few. One, I'm glad to see that the developer was amenable to an affordable housing component to this. I think that's important. I'm curious, as a part of that, is there included in the agreement, or even required, something that has like a mix of floor plans across 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, or 3-bedroom units?
At this point, no. There is nothing within the agreement that does restrict or somehow require a mix of the units. The number of units that we're speaking to, it's a 90-unit complex, so these are 9 units that we're speaking about. There are requirements with regards to the documentation associated with providing the affordable housing, not only within our code that's referenced in the agreement, but also in the agreement we've added a provision that assures that not only are they documenting that they're hitting those affordable housing thresholds and doing the income verification for the 80% AMI and 60% AMI, but also that it maintains over a 15-year time frame, and so that it won't just be at the very beginning of it. But with regards to the type of unit, we have not had those conversations with the applicant about that. We have had conversations about where those units might be, and that they would be spread throughout the complex, and that there wouldn't be one specific affordable area of the complex, but that they would be distributed throughout.
Gotcha, okay.
That's good.
Yeah, just to follow up on that really quick, being on go to you, Counselor. So if I'm looking to rent and I'm at 80 or 60% AMI, there's going to be dedicated units, or is it going to be like, hey, I got a family and a small family, I need a 3-bedroom apartment, it's just whatever's available, or is it dedicated units that are going to be affordable?
It would be keeping 9 units of affordable.
Okay.
So ultimately, if someone that was,
the 9 same units, yeah.
not the 9 same units,
Oh,
9
okay.
throughout the facility.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
if somebody moves out that was in an affordable housing unit, but then somebody else wants to move in, and somebody else had already moved into the other unit, they would just be keeping an inventory
Yeah.
of 10% for affordable housing, but it doesn't specify which units they
Yeah,
would be.
that's fine. Okay, great. Councilor Davis, is your question or comment relevant to this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, go
Yeah, I just wanted to follow it. I mean, so just almost for clarification, we're talking about 9 units affordable, which I appreciate their willingness to partner with that as well. And it's essentially almost, instead of being 9 units, it's almost like 9 leases, right?
Correct.
Say you have 5 open units or 5 open units and you only have 8 leases that are considered to be affordable. You know, somebody comes in, they qualify for affordable, it would be under their purview for any of those 5, you know, available units that they could fulfill the requirement. Is that a accurate way to put it?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to verify. Thank you.
Cool, yeah. One other question from me is just curious, is this contract transferable? So in the event that, say, the developer sells the property, sells the complex, does this become transferable to the new owner?
Yes, it
Okay.
runs with the land.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then my last thing is just a comment on, I'm glad to hear that there is the tree retention policy inserted in there. And then also, I understood that the old silo that's there is probably not super viable to keep in place. That's fine, but I'm glad to hear that they're willing to use portions of that, because I think that's kind of cool. So thank you to MAJ for being amenable to that. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and I know we're talking about the overlay and not the actual site plan, but I would like to say, I really like the plan when it comes to the trail on the east side and going over the wet, like, that's a really cool concept. It wasn't just the easiest thing you could do. It is something that's got some character, and so I really like that.
Yep.
And Mayor and Council, just to that point, the concept plan itself will be included as an attachment to the concomitant rezone agreement. A concept plan as an attachment to the concomitant rezone agreement is specified within our code as part of the concomitant rezone. So what you see in that map, while it does have to go through a formal development review process, it will be done consistent with this concept plan. So the trail that you're speaking to on the east side that is on the west side of the wetlands, and then a bridged connection from this complex over to the east to an existing trail that is adjacent to where the community and recreation center will be built, will occur. And the applicant has definitely been very willing to work with us, not only on assuring that connection, but figuring out how we can do that in both time and effort to assure that it gets done correctly and that it fits within their timeframes for getting the rest of the complex complete.
Great, thank you. And I gotta say, I like the concept plan as it's presented. I think it's a good plan. And you know, just as a reminder, like we have a 25% multifamily housing goal in the city, and we're currently meeting about 12.7% of it. So this will hopefully make a little bit of a dent in that. And it's also part of like that community where you want it to be walkable and adjacent to services that are like a community center. So, okay, if there's no further questions, council, I would ask Julie to read the ordinance into the record.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 1443, an ordinance of the City of Ridgefield, Washington, adding the Ridgefield mixed-use zoning overlay to portions of 3 commercial parcels with concomitant rezone agreement.
Great, thank you. And council, this is second reading, so at this time I'd ask for a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 1443 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 1443 as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, she has to call the roll.
Oh, I'm sorry, you have to do that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Wells?
Aye.
Councilmember Favela?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman?
Aye.
Mayor Cole?
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you again very much, council. Moving on to our next item of business. This is the approval of the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program Amendment. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and honored guests. I'm here to present a quick action, and I'm going to ask Julie to put a graphic on screen. As you know, we were successful in getting a federal grant from the Regional Transportation Council process to do the next phase of the South Ridgefield I-5 South Connector project. With that original application, we had planned to use $42,000 in remaining planning funds from the previous phase of the project. Was done about 4 or 5 years ago. That requirement that WashDOT put on us was to get some type of legislative approval to roll that money into this project. We have so far been unsuccessful in doing so. The graphic that's on the bottom is the current transportation budget that's currently being reviewed by the legislature. What's not easy to see is that at the bottom line there, that 44,000, excuse me, is showing up in this biennium that ends pretty soon. You'll see it as 0 in the next biennium. So with it being 0, we still have to produce the $44,000 in local match. What this amendment does is exchanges that state planning grant with city funds so that we can cover that match and use the federal funds to move forward with the project, which we're gearing up to go out for a consultant pretty soon. So this is the action that we're requesting. It's a no change in budget, but it is a swap of state for local money. With that, I'll end my presentation.
That was fast.
You want me to say more?
Oh, no. We're good. No.
Okay.
We're okay.
Sorry, yeah. Council, any discussion on Mr. Green's presentation? No, okay. Great, okay, at this point, if there's no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the amendment to the 2025-2030 Transportation Improvement Program as presented.
My second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the 2025 to 2030 Transportation Improvement Program amendment. Any further discussion, council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. The motion carries. Okay, we have a couple of public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is the first reading of ordinance number 1450, establishing speed limits for streets built by new development or by city project. This includes Pioneer Canyon Drive from 56th Place to Pioneer Street, 53rd Drive from Pioneer to Pioneer Canyon Drive, Discovery Drive between South Wells Drive and Pioneer Street, South 6th Way between South 56th Place and Discovery Drive. Mr. Green.
Okay, I promise I'll say more with this one. So these, as you mentioned, are new roads. They've been recently built or soon to be built. They, by the city process, speed limits are set by code, and code is adopted by Councilor Davis, ordinance. Thank you. So that was a quiz.
I got it.
So in order to set the speed limits, we need to have a process to like what should they be set at. Give you a little bit of background. Discovery Drive is being designed and built. Some of you might have used it part of it this past weekend to get into our spring cleanup. That's being built as a minor arterial. So minor arterials are kind of like the Hillhursts, the Royal Roads of the world, all have 35-mile-an-hour speed limits. Pioneer Canyon Drive, it's built in 2 parts. Unionridge Town Center built the western part. We're currently in construction on the eastern. We're in the western part. Unionridge Town Center is the eastern part. Last year, when we were wrapping up the design of Pioneer Canyon Drive, we realized that western end is also going near or through a wetland. And so we made the decision at that time to use this 25-mile-an-hour design speed for 2 reasons. One is to reduce the impacts on the wetlands with that, but also because that part of Pioneer Canyon then is coming into a roundabout, the new roundabout that's being built with the project. And so we didn't want to create a high-speed situation going into a low-speed situation at the roundabout, hence the 25 miles an hour. Unionridge Town Center, we're working with their engineers. They were designing their system to be a 25-mile-an-hour system. That's 56th Place, 53rd Place, and then their portion of Pioneer Canyon Drive. So that's why those are proposed to be set at 25. The remaining section is the extension of South 6th Way from 56 by our shops over to Discovery Drive. That's a very short section. The section just to the east is 25 miles an hour. The proposal is to continue that 25 for the short section of the extension of 6th Way over to Discovery Drive. Because this is a code amendment and an ordinance, a public hearing is requested, and then return it to council for action on that. Just as a note, these are, since these are new streets, if council is, or staff is amenable, if council decides to waive the second reading and adopt tonight. So I'll return this to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Green. All right, council, on this item, is there any discussion? Wow, okay.
I got a question.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Mr. Wells.
I'm trying to think of what the road from Discovery Corridor out to the cell tower, so that's 5th? Is that 5th? That little short section at 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's South 6th Way.
5th or 6th?
Sixth.
Okay, 6th. How are we going to signalize that intersection? What I mean is signalize what stop signs, what is planned on that?
When that intersection is completed, you'll have a completed road section. That intersection will become an all-way stop.
Always, all three
Always
ways?
stop.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was the question I had. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions, council? Oh, Councilor Davis.
I was just going to share, I mean, the thing that made me curious was the Discovery Drive piece, and that's because we're talking about a road that none of us really use yet, and so it's more of like the concept of it. But I think 35 is appropriate with its, connection at the south and just the way that it's going to be utilized. And so all these seem to make a lot of sense. I was kind of curious about 25 for Pioneer Canyon Drive, but I think that we've all driven that enough these last couple months that I can't see it really being great to go much faster than that. And so I think that part being 25, but then to the south being 35 makes, I think it's reasonable.
Great, yeah, I'd agree with that. Thank you. Any other comments, council?
One other comment.
Yes, sir.
On that intersection, maybe we should consider a free right turn on 6th going towards Pioneer Street, like they do at Daybreak Park, and that where when you come up to the stop sign, if you're going to make a right turn, you get a free right turn, but you have to stop if you're going across. Just a consideration, because there is a lot of traffic that goes through there on a daily basis, and I think it would help speed things up. Just personal comment.
We can take a look at that.
Okay. We do have a public hearing ahead of us, so if there's no other questions or comments for staff at this time, council, I'm going to open the public hearing. If you sign up with the city clerk before the meeting, your name will be called and you will receive permission to unmute your microphone or step up to the podium. If you did not sign up in advance but would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on your toolbar. If you are joining by phone, press star 9 to raise your hand and star 6 to mute or unmute. The city clerk will grant you permission to speak. When speaking, please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes. There will be no back and forth between the council. This public hearing is now open. Is there anybody signed up for a public hearing at this time? Yes, come on up, sir.
Let's see.
I guess I'm on.
Yeah.
You can raise it up.
Yeah, you can raise it up if you need. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. My name is Kurt Weiss, live on South Royal Court. And my question is to Mr. Crownhart, who had a wonderful presentation.
Sir, is it, sorry, is this related to this speed limit public hearing or is this a general public comment?
General public comment?
Okay, yeah, so we'll have a section here coming up, and we'll let you make that comment, but thanks. This one has to be relevant to the public hearing.
Your shirt is fantastic.
Yeah. Anybody else wishing to give comment on this specific public hearing? Ms. Julie, anybody online?
Not seeing anyone online, Mayor.
Okay, and nobody else here in the audience? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Thank you. Let's see where we at here. Yeah, Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you. Ordinance number 1450, an ordinance of the City of Richfield, Washington, amending Richfield Municipal Code, Chapter 10.08, speed limits, establishing posted speed limit for certain segments of North Pioneer Canyon, North 53rd Place, North 56th Place, South Discovery Drive, and South 6th Way.
Great, thank you. Council, again, this is first reading only, but as Mr. Green pointed out, we could waive second if you so desired.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, I move to waive second reading and adopt ordinance 1450 as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to waive second reading and adopt ordinance number 1450 as presented. Any questions or comments at this point, Council? Okay, seeing none, it's a roll call vote, right?
Yes, it is.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Favela?
Yes.
Councilmember Wells?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Chipman?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Council. We have a second public hearing tonight. This is first reading on ordinance number 1451. This is the Marks petition to annex. Ms. Lust.
Thank you again, Mayor. So the item before you this evening is a public hearing and first reading only. No action is requested. This is the Marks petition to annex. Next slide, please. All right, so the subject properties are in the eastern portion of the city, immediately south of Greeley Farms Phase 3, immediately east of future phases of Urban Downs 2. There are two parcels. The main developable parcel is about 10.5 acres, and then it is accessed by a separate flagpole parcel from 259th Street. So the total acreage under consideration here for annexation is 11.2 acres. The current zoning is single-family residential R16 with the urban holding 10 overlay. Per Ridgefield ordinance, the urban low density designation when it comes into the city of Ridgefield with an annexation, the assigned zoning is residential low density 4, 6, or 8. Our currently adopted 2016 to 2035 urban area comprehensive plan identifies the city zoning of these parcels as RLD 6. That's residential low density 6. That is the same zoning designation as those surrounding planned unit developments, Greeley Farms to the north, Urban Downs 2 to the west. The applicant for this annexation is the developer of Greeley Farms. So anticipate upon annexation to go through a development review process, starting with the pre-application that would be required to go through land use, engineering, and ultimately building review to develop the site. Council reviewed the first step of the annexation project for these parcels on February 27th. That's the intent to annex, and Council on that date adopted resolution number 659 approving the intent to annex. And that action is what authorized the applicant to move forward with this petition to annex phase. What that means procedurally is that the applicant was required to submit a declaration of petition to annex signed by property owners representing at least 60% of the taxable value of the properties. There is one owner of these properties, Robert and Denise Marks. The Markses own 100%, so that threshold was easily met. Clark County Assessor's Office reviewed the submittal materials, including the declaration of petition to annex, survey, and legal description of the property, and issued a signed certification of sufficiency on April 9th of this year. So that brings us to this evening, which is a first ordinance reading and public hearing. With that, I will turn it back to you, Mayor, for any initial questions prior to the hearing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lust. Council, any questions or comments on this annexation proposal? Yes, Mr. Wells.
I got just two questions. The lone flag on the flag lot, or the flagpole, if you want to say that, that goes to 259th?
That's correct.
That's correct. And then they do have entrance from the north from the other Greeley.
That is correct. Greeley Farms Phase 3 to the north includes a street stub that accesses this parcel. And then they're not platted yet, so they don't show on the map before you, but the parcel to the west is a future phase of Urban Downs 2 as well, which will also provide a connection into the site.
Okay. The flag lot, the flag itself, it's probably an engineering question. How wide is that right away? Probably engineering.
I do not have that information in front of me. Mr. Green, do you know the answer to that?
I do not. I know we covered that when we met with them. I know that when they would build it down to 259th as another access, it would need to be at least 20 feet wide for fire reasons. So it will need to eventually be that.
I just brought up a question, that's all. I don't need an answer. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Wells. Councilors, any other questions? Looks like none. Okay, we're going to open the public hearing then. If you sign up with the city clerk before the meeting, your name will be called and you will receive permission to unmute your microphone or step up to the podium. If you did not sign up in advance but would like to speak, please use the raise hand feature on your toolbar. If you're joining by phone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute or unmute. The city clerk will grant you permission to speak. When speaking, please state your name and keep your comments to 3 minutes, and there will be no back and forth interaction between the council. This public hearing is now open. Is there any public hearing or any public comment request tonight? Ms. Julie, online?
Not seeing one online, Mayor.
Okay, and I don't see anybody here in person. Just one last comment. Okay. Seeing none. Mr. Jennings, are you going to give public comment, or are you excusing yourself? Later, okay, great. Okay, seeing none, I will now close the public hearing. Thank you. And, yeah, this is first reading. Actually, Ms. Julie, would you please read the ordinance into the record?
Thank you. Ordinance number 1451, ordinance of the City of Richfield, Washington, annexing into the corporate limits of the City of Richfield approximately 11.2 acres, identified as the Marks annexation area, and assigning the zoning of the annexed area as residential, low density 6, with the urban holding 10 overlay.
Great, thank you, Ms. Julie. This is first reading only, so there will be no action by council tonight. Moving on in our agenda, we will go to public comment. Anyone requesting to speak to council regarding items not subject to a specific public hearing may come forward at this time. Please state your name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Written comments may be submitted. If you are joining by the phone, press *9 to raise your hand and press *6 to mute or unmute. And please, again, state your name and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Michael Jennings. Thank you for your excellent management. Please tell everyone who has contributed to city management that someone at the city council meeting thanked them.
Thank you. And I like your style. You kind of got a head start because you know Kurt was going to come up right after you and you wanted to beat him. Anybody else wishing to give public comment tonight? I know.
Yeah, my name again is Kurt Weiss, South Royal Court, and this is in regards to Mr. Crownhart's presentation, Parks and Trails. And what I've been mulling over is possibly in the next meeting or something, I'd like to hear how much or what the percentage is that this work is done in-house and what the percentage is that is having to be contracted out. And specifically, I think I'm asking is, what are the capabilities of the Parks and Trails staff? What are they capable of doing? And how much can they handle? And that's kind of what I've got. I'd just like to hear what a percentage might be. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Anybody else wishing to give public comment this evening? Chief Jackson, come on up.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I just want to give a quick update, very brief update.
Chief Jackson, can you turn on your mic, please?
It's on.
It's supposed to be blue. It's red right now. There you go. Now you're on.
There we are.
Wow, you were projecting really well then.
Mike Jackson, Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue. I just want to give a very brief update as well as a thank you to Mr. Stewart and the city staff, the leadership at Public Works. We are, like the rest of the community, experiencing a little bit of growing pains, and with that, we're looking to move our Community Risk Reduction Division back to Ridgefield, which will be centered in our district. So with that, we will be, over the course of the next month or two, moving to essentially some vacant space in the administrative building next to the truck shops across from the Public Works yard. And staff was very gracious in accommodating us as partners, as they usually are. One of the constraints we had was a little bit of parking, so they're going to help us out with some parking with the Public Works yard. We look forward to that. One of the pieces with this that's kind of an exciting announcement is our partnership with our regional behavioral health folks, the BHASO Carillon in our case, in coordination with the Healthcare Authority from the state and the Department of Health. We're moving forward with funding from the state and the behavioral health folks to become the one of the first, if not the first, credentialed team for response to behavioral health crisis through the 988 line. And with that comes funding to expand our program to 24/7 service. And we'll actually provide that service for all of Clark County minus the city limits of Vancouver. But that'll be a service that we don't currently have. We had a pilot program with them. This extends it and gives us more secured long-term funding outside of local tax dollars. So we're excited for that. And the move across the street will be helpful. And again, a thanks to the staff for helping to accommodate that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your comments as always. It's a good update. Is there anybody else present tonight that would like to give public comment? Miss Julie, anybody online?
Not seeing one online.
Okay. With that, we will close public comment and we'll move on to council and staff reports. I think last week I did the left side, so I'm going to start on the right side, and Councilor Davis, we'll start with you.
Ooh, all right, thank you. It was a busy couple weeks. Started off, I guess, teasing up something that's upcoming. I've had a couple meetings related to an event that the YMCA is having on Saturday at Davis Park. RPD is going to be partnering up with the Y to do a little bit of bike safety. I believe 10 o'clock, is that when we're starting? 10 o'clock at Davis Park. I'll be there helping out with fitting bike helmets and stuff like that, so hopefully we see a lot of kids and families coming through and learning how to enjoy the outdoors on your bike this summer in a safe manner. We had a CTRAN meeting, which was lively. The update from that is due to a variety of factors, they're going to be revisiting a tabled motion related to light rail and light rail funding until July. And so we will keep focus on that, and by we, I guess I mean I. Watershed Alliance went to the fundraising dinner. The mayor and I were able to attend that. It was really well attended. I believe they raised $33,000, and they have done some really important work in our community, so it was awesome to be able to go there and support them. Let's see, we had the ribbon cutting for, is it Viva Aesthetics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
Viva
what it was, yeah.
Aesthetics in what we have now termed to be Uptown. Like, at first I parked at Overlook Park, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't necessarily feel like walking that far when I finally looked at the map, because I thought it was like just closer to downtown, but I love the fact that they are up there and their space is just super cool, and they're gonna be an anchor of what's going on up there, and I'm really excited for them. And then we had cleanup day, which was just so well executed. I thought that that was a great event. It always is. And I think one of the things I really appreciated was just the chance to interact with a lot of our city staff. I know we say it all the time, but our staff is just awesome. Our staff is just the best. And just even on a personal level, you know, spending some time slinging garbage, and I showed up a little late, but because of other stuff. But it was a fun time, and it was a productive time, and I just think it's a great service, and I enjoyed the chance to hang out with our wonderful staff. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Councilor Davis. Yes, Councilor Favela.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to congratulate our newest park board member. I'm super excited that we have a youth member, and I'm looking forward to what she is going to contribute. Also, while we're speaking of youth, we had a Ridgefield High School student who was sponsored by State Representative Ed Orcutt to serve as a page at the Washington State House of Representatives, and this is a really exciting opportunity. The student's name is Sam Parker, so I'm really excited for Sam as well. Watching our youth just be so involved in community and civics is really exciting. I attended the spring cleanup as well. I had the privilege of doing scrap metal, and I've never seen so many rotors be thrown away, and we got to use them as discs to try to practice throwing, so that was really fun. And also getting to hang out with public works staff. I echo Councilor Davis, his sentiments on public works city staff. They're really incredible to work with, always have a fun time with them. This week I attended a CREDC luncheon. That's the Columbia River Economic Development Council. That was really good. That was at ALNA. The fire district meeting. So it sounds like EMS District 2 confirmed a piggyback contract for 2026. So they're gonna be working on that. And also something really exciting, prior to 2022, in the state of Washington, only law enforcement vehicles were able to use blue lights in an emergency. However, House Bill 2033 passed a couple of years ago, so that gives fire apparatus are allowed to utilize blue lights in Washington with a few caveats. The lights can only be on the rear of the apparatus, so nothing front facing, and the lights can only come on when the vehicle is parked, nothing blue while responding. So because Clark Cowlitz responds to so many freeway and highway incidents where traffic tends to be at a higher speed, they're going to move forward implementing blue lights on their apparatuses. So now you will be able to see blue and red on Clark Cowlitz fire. The Rourke Fieldhouse is coming along really nicely. I was really excited to see that, and I'm really excited about the Raptor season and meeting our new player. Our exchange student is gone, and now we are getting ready to host our baseball player. There will be a drug take-back event this weekend, so any household prescriptions that need to be disposed of can be dropped off at the Ridgefield Police Station between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So anybody who has any extra drugs, that please do not flush them down the toilet or throw them in the garbage can. You can go and drop them off for free so they can be disposed of properly. And then last week was National Telecommunications Week, so I want to thank all of our dispatchers at CRESA and also our mental health crisis responders who respond to all crisis calls 24/7, along with all the other telecommunications that are always there. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Favela. Okay, I'll skip over to Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had a really fun few weeks involved in all kinds of fun city stuff. So kicked it off a couple weeks ago with a city tour with Mr. Stewart, which was awesome to really break down the development of how our amazing city has come along over the years. And it's neat to reference having grown up here and seeing, it just was cool to tie all those things together. I also attended the ribbon cutting, the 1-year anniversary for Viva Aesthetics, which is cool. As a beauty girl, it was really cool to see the services that they're doing there and figure out how I can partner with them and help support that business. And then spring cleanup. I am not known amongst my friends and family for my manual labor skills. And so it was actually, I really enjoyed it, and I was thoroughly impressed with how much energy and effort went into making that event so seamless. Everyone that had the feedback that was there was how easy it was for all of our residents and how impactful it was, and it was cool to, like Councilor Favela said, to throw routers? What are they called? Rotors? rotors like discus into the scrap metal bin and to take people's trash and watch the trash compactor go through, all things I don't normally see, and I was thrilled to be a part of. I also attended the CRDC luncheon. I went to the Ridgefield School Board meeting, which was incredible to hear a lot about Wisdom Ridge, which is our alternative learning experience here in town, and it offers a lot of opportunities for our students who are athletes or have to work full-time because they don't have the luxury of not. You know, it services a lot of different components of our community, and it was really great to hear the metrics and the things that they're holding, the standards that they're holding themselves to and continue to grow within. And then I attended the Clark Cowlitz Fire Rescue Board meeting to learn more about our amazing department, and it's just an honor to be here, so thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Councilor Hamilton. Councilor Wells.
I'm going to make mine short and sweet. I did attend 5 different meetings that came the spring cleanup, and I learned a lesson. Before we went to the cleanup, I volunteered for traffic control.
Yeah, you had it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, traffic control from the west. It was the biggest mistake I ever made. There was more traffic that come down Wells Drive and had to make a left turn. It would have been much better having to fill the garbage trucks. No, it was enjoyable. Saw a lot of people. Everybody seemed happy. I only had one lady that was complaining about having to make the left turn and go through the new Discovery Drive pavement. But other than that, everybody was joyful. I mean, it was really, really, I think the community really respects and enjoys the cleanup day every year. They look forward to the next year. I did also include the CRDC luncheon, and one of the things I had as a takeaway that we're going to be potentially in trouble with our power grid systems, having enough power. That was one of the big takes that day. And my prediction is that someday we'll be back to nuclear power. We had nuclear power across the river a few years ago. So anyway, we'll see. And the briefing on the 23rd and council tonight.
Sounds good. Thank you, Councilor Wells.
I think I'll just skip. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem is going to skip. Okay, no report. That's fine. Great. Yeah, it's, man, I always say that. I feel like I say this every week, but it's always a busy week. But there's always a lot going on in the city. It's just kind of fun, too. This morning, I started off right with, it was Take Your Child to Work Day for our city staff. So I got to have breakfast with 28 young people of city employees, and so that was a lot of fun. It's always good when you start your day with a scavenger hunt in Abrams Park. So we did that and took some photos and did a bunch of fun stuff there. It happens to be this week Volunteer Appreciation Week, and you know, I think this is kind of cool to call out just because it's a national thing, but here in Ridgefield, I think we have no problem doing this because we're a very active community, and this is part of the call to action that came out of the WAVE initiative at the State of the City event, if you had a chance to see that at all. But it was, you know, it was our pledge as council to be more accessible and available to residents, but the call to action was for our residents to become more involved in our community. And I don't think more involved is necessarily the operative word there. It's just they are presently involved. And so we have volunteers who support our schools, our garden club, our arts association, our Main Street program. Gosh, there were just so many different volunteer involvements. We have volunteers that work with the city all throughout, through churches and other local organizations throughout town. We're really very grateful for that because that spirit of volunteerism is really what makes this community vibrant and come together. We can't do it all at the city level. You can't do it all on a nonprofit level, or you can't rely on our external partners or businesses. We have to have volunteers to do that, so we're grateful for that. Let's see here. Last week was of course a busy week, but one of the more significant things that came out of it is, I mentioned this in my update a couple of weeks ago during council, is that we have been working with our partners at the county council on our comprehensive plan and submitting some viable land use alternatives. There's been some question from them whether they can do a resource land study, which is required to de-designate certain lands that we would like to do to kind of fulfill our population and jobs requirements. And the council was very concerned that they would not hit that in time. However, after a very long effort, and we're not out of the woods yet, but the county council did approve the resource land study. It's got to be completed by September 1st, I believe. So we're going to continue working with them. I also sent a letter along with Mayor Strobin of La Center. We sent a joint letter to the county council inviting them to do a joint work session so we can coordinate this effort on our comprehensive plans, especially here in this part of the county. And they did agree to that. I think it sounds like they're going to bring in other people, other cities, as a part of that. But it was, for all intents and purposes, a productive week in that regard, because we did keep things moving, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get this thing done. I was late tonight because I came from an event earlier downtown Vancouver. Our Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez is in town, and she's doing a series of town halls while she's in Congress is in recess for a couple of weeks. And I was invited to moderate the discussion, and I did so because I believe that our cities should, this body should be a good partner to our legislative delegation and our state legislative delegation on the state and federal level. I think that's really important, and to make sure that we're helping foster good civic discourse. And so I was there in a very nonpartisan fashion, supporting that event and helping moderate it. I will say I like this crowd better. Because that is a rowdy crowd. But it also serves as a good reminder of how challenging our democracy can be at times. And I think that's worth recognizing, that it's hard to get to kind of work through this. We have, for 200 and something years, struggled through this, and you kind of ebb and flow, and there's this tension, when we look at policy and legislation, and we look at the political climate and all of this, and then people's sentiments on that, and sometimes it's more tense than others. And I think we're at a more tense time in our history. And so, but nonetheless, when you participate, you are still nonetheless participating in our democracy. And I think that's very important to recognize, that you can get up there and you can shout and boo, you can cheer and jeer, or you can do whatever you need to do, or you can stay silent and listen, but just being there, you are an active participant, and I think that is worth celebrating. So all chaos aside, I think that's the silver lining there. So with that does it for me. I'll turn it over to you, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council and the community. Not much to follow up on based on everything that's already been offered by council. I appreciate all your comments and your kudos for our staff. They definitely are doing amazing work in a variety of fashions. Spring cleanup is definitely one of them. It is an event that we are relatively unique. We are one of the last jurisdictions in the county to actually do a spring cleanup day with Waste Connections. And it is also incredibly valuable. It's something that helps people clean up not only their own space, but their neighborhoods, to be able to actually make sure that our community stays healthy and vibrant and clean, and just giving an opportunity for people to find a place to go. So with that, I wanted to give you a few numbers from that, because we just got those today. This year there were 382 vehicles that came through the spring cleanup. That compares to just over 400 last year. We had 33.51 tons of waste collected. So 33.5 tons of waste were collected, and that is just about 2 tons less than last year. We had 124 tires collected, which is more. But then last year we had 335 household hazardous waste drop-off participants, which is significantly more than we've done in the past. And obviously, those especially, people who then have no other opportunity but to throw hazardous waste into the garbage, this is keeping a lot of hazardous waste out of the landfills. We had 5, and then for Neighbors Helping Neighbors, which is our nonprofit partner for this, not only did they have 557 pounds of food donations, they also collected $141 in cash. So a great day for them as well, and I know they were grateful to be able to participate in that. And last thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned, thank you, Mayor, for saying good morning to the kiddos in Take Your Kid to Work Day today. Yes, we did have 28 kids Not that long ago, it was a lot less than that. There are a lot more kids with our team. To have our team members out there with their kids and doing the scavenger hunts and spending the day, and all of our staff that actually help put it together, it is an amazing chance to see, for the kids to see their parents at work, to see their parents' friends and coworkers at work, for them to learn about what their parents do, and also for the parents to learn more about what the other parents are doing and connect with each other. So it is something we love every year, and we enjoy it, and we appreciate you guys' support for that. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Council, any questions for the city manager?
I was also going to say on Take Your Kid to Work Day, it also means that classrooms only have about 13, 14 kids in them, which makes it a little easier to manage. So I thank you guys.
You're welcome, Counselor.
So, any other questions? Great. Okay. We'll move on to you, Mr. Green.
Thank you. So as you were mentioning, the Watershed Alliance, for those who did not have the privilege of trudging through the muck with me a couple weekends ago, you now have another chance. Saturday, May 10th is the next planting for the Pioneer Project IQ Credit Union Wetland Planting. So please sign up through the Watershed Alliance. This is their event. And just to let you know, if you remember when we actually awarded the contract for that team, they estimated the volunteers are saving us, the project, the citizens of the city, $125,000 by using volunteer services. So that's a pretty big number. The other thing is Pioneer reopens next week. And there's a lot of work our contractor is going to be scrambling to do the next few days to get there. So pay attention, because there's still some paving, there's some striping, and there's some other wall work that they're going to be doing. The other thing you might notice next week is Monday morning our artist comes to town, and they're going to start putting the bird art on the railroad overpass. So watch for that too. So that's all I have to say about that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Green. Any questions for our city engineer? Okay. We'll move on to Mr. Thamer.
Good evening. I don't have anything to add tonight, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Mr. Thamer? Okay. We'll let you off the hook tonight. Okay. Sounds good. Mr. Johnson, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I got the privilege today of bringing two people for the Take Your Kid to Work Day, my 32-year-old son and my grandson. My son does happen to work for the city, so he brought his grandson, and I was able to see him, and then also my granddaughter, who's about 2, showed up at the end, and that was really nice to see them today. For work-related stuff, you all got an invitation to the entrance conference for the audit. So if you are able to show up for that on May 8th at 10 a.m., please let either Julia or myself know so that we can get you on the list. And we will probably be doing a pretty quick turn in going to an exit conference, because the audit hopefully will be done within the week or possibly 10 days after.
Wow.
So it's a little bit late for doing the entrance this year, because they were doing planning and they were behind on that, because they've been short-staffed at the auditor's office, so they were doing quite a bit of follow-up on some school audits that they had to get done because of the time frame they have to have that done per statute. So we got ours started a little bit later than we expected. So
does that mean they charge us less because it's less time? Actually,
well,
yeah.
That would be nice. I will have you talk to them about that and see what you can accomplish for us.
Our manager will.
All right, thank
Great.
you all. Answer any questions if you have.
Any questions for Mr. Johnson, Council? Okay, you're good. Ms. Luss, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one tidbit to add from Cleanup Day, which is that at the electronics station, we got the coolest thing ever, which was a 350-pound first-generation 3D printer. I sincerely hope there are photos of it. You'll have to ask Megan, but yeah, definitely a highlight of our day, the little group of us that were at that station, and it was, as many have said, a very fun and productive event. That is all I have.
Who throws that away?
They said it worked, too.
Yeah.
We were shocked.
Cool. Okay, Ms. Notnaris, over to you.
Just a shout out for the May 1st Saturday event. It is actually the 10th anniversary of First Saturdays in Ridgefield. We're going to start the day with an art reveal celebration for the art that is on the railroad overpass. At 11 o'clock, we have a ribbon cutting and second grand opening for the Central Market or the corner store. They're going to be having activities all day long. And at noon is the actual celebration for the 10th anniversary, followed by a talent show. And of course, we'll have the art show and the garden club sale and vendors and a lot of other celebration about for Saturdays throughout the last 10 years. That's all I have.
Good. Going to be a nice little Saturday. That's great. Okay. Questions for Ms. Notnaris, anybody? Okay. Ms. Parker, it looks like you're online, so we'll go to you.
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay. I do not have anything to report this evening, but I am happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Great, thank you.
Having a wonderful spring.
Any questions for our city attorney? Seeing none, we'll let you off the hook too. Okay, moving on, and we'll go to Chief Doria. Oh,
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
okay, great, thank you. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.